Hello everyone, welcome back. I just ended the last one, and as I was ending it, I reached down and my elbow went and it hurt. Okay, so he was talking about a kid crying, and then if you don't have kids, you don't understand because all kids cry. I get it. So on to the final part.
Your kid, you shall recognize him or his or her cry from amongst 1,000 cries. You will know this is my kid. And that's why Allah says in the Quran about the Yahud, يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم. As they recognize their own children. The recognition of children is something totally different. Anyway, where was I? What was I talking about? Hassan radiallahu anhu, the Prophet picked him up, brought him back. Now, listen to this. He kissed him on the mimbar. And he lifted him up. There's a famous hadith, Bukhari and Muslim. He lifted him up. This is the leader, right? All other later motifs are coming from here. He lifted him up and he said, Inna ibni hadha sayyid. This son of mine, and he called him a son, even though he's a grandson. This is an honor for Hassan, radiallahu anhu. This son of mine is a leader. Sayyid here means leader. This son of mine is a leader. And a time will come when he shall be the cause of reconciling between two large groups of Muslims. بَيْنَ فِئَتَيْنِ عَظِيمَتَيْنِ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Now this hadith is so profound. And I have to gloss over it. But the Prophet ﷺ did not criticize either side. Notice. Unlike another trend in our ummah that thinks that they are on one side versus the other, and we respectfully disagree without riling up any hatred, but we disagree. We don't agree with that trend. We are on both sides, even though we respect one side as closer to the truth than other, but we do not disrespect the other side. And we get this from where? From our Prophet ﷺ. He didn't say, this son will reconcile between Muslim and Kafir. A'udhu billah. He didn't say between Muslim and Fajr, between guided and misguided. No, what did he say? Between two great groups of Muslims. And we know what happened between Muawiyah radiallahu anh and Ali radiallahu anh. They were fighting. At the death of Ali radiallahu anh, Hassan took charge for a few months. Muawiyah, for maslahah known to him, decided to have one more attack, and Hassan said, you know what, enough is enough, you keep it, and khalas, go, and I'm going to withdraw. And because of that, the ummah united. And this is the true leader. Not the one who sits on the kursi, the one who unites the ummah was called the leader. Imagine that. Not the figurehead, who is great, we respect.
That makes sense though. You got the figurehead is one thing, everyone's going to look to him. But if you get a group of people together, this is like a social type of thing. If you get a group of people together, usually men, they're all going to look for kind of that alpha. And that alpha is going to be the one who kind of brings everyone together and maybe starts dishing out tasks like, hey, you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do, and that person who brings them all together is going to be the one they look at. Now, some people have that ability, and they turn out to be terrible people because they'll abuse it. Other people have that ability and end up being really good at it. Almost, well, you have people who are really good at it, but they're weak in a way. Not in a negative way. They just refuse to abuse that power, and so they get viewed as weak. But they're typically good at what they do. And then you have weak people who are just like, okay, you go do this. And then somebody will step in and say, nah, I'm better at doing this. Oh, okay. Well, who wants to do that? You got to almost lay it down like, who can do what? Okay, good. Now we can break everything up. Yes, I agree with him. You'd almost rather follow the person who could get everyone together on the same page and then lead instead of the figurehead, because the figurehead is just kind of like a king They're the money people. They're the people behind the scenes.
He's a Sahabi, but you cannot compare him with Hassan radiallahu. There is no comparison aslan. The real leader in the metaphorical sense, not in the political sense. Politically, yes, the leader of the Umayyads was the leader. But the real leader was the one who stepped back and said, Khalas, you have it. Enough bloodshed. Let us be one. And that's what the Prophet called him the leader. Also, the prediction is given as well in the famous hadith in Sahih Muslim. That, whose is this? Can you turn that off? That Ali radiallahu anh was fighting the Kharijites. So Ali fought multiple wars. He fought in the battle of Jamal, this is predicted. He fought in the battle of Siffin, this is predicted. He also fought the Kharijites. And the Kharijites are the first sect to break away from the Ummah. The first fanatic group to break away, and they consider themselves holier and better than everybody else. And he fought the Kharijites and he won them. Then he said, go find somebody who has a deformity of the hand, and he described in vivid detail. There's going to be a protrusion, there's going to be a black spot. He described in vivid detail. Go find somebody with that deformity amongst the dead. So they went once, they said, Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, we didn't find this person. He said, no, you didn't look. Go look again. So they went for a second time, and they scoured every dead body before they buried him. And they didn't find. They said, oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, we looked at every dead body, we didn't find this sign. He said, go for a third time, for wallahi, I know what I heard, and neither was the person who said this to me a liar, nor was I lied to. In other words, the one who said it spoke the truth, and I know what I heard. So now he got angry, said, go and do it, I know what I heard. The one who said this is not a liar, and I heard the truth. Go find this man. So they went and they found that there were two people who were actually covering a third body. And because of that, they hadn't found the third body. So when they pulled the purple, they said, oh, here is it. And they found that same deformity. And they said, oh, here he is, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, Allahu Akbar, I know I heard the truth. The Prophet ﷺ told me I would fight, and he described the groups of people, the Kharijites, and he said their leader will be a person, described him, and the deformity was there. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim. Imagine how specific of a narration. Where Ali radiallahu anh, he knows he has to fight this fringe group, and he knows that this is a wrong group and that their leader is going to have this deformity, and he's so confident. 3 times they come, they say, we didn't find this guy. No, go, I know what I heard, and the one who said this to me is not a liar. Don't accuse me of anything, I know what I heard. So then they found the man. This is a prediction, is it not? It is one of the signs of Judgment Day, that Ali radiallahu anh is going to be fighting this group of the Kharijites. And we already mentioned the battle of Siffin. There's one more hadith, I forgot to mention it. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari, muttafaq alayhi hadith, that the Prophet ﷺ said, Qiyamah will not come until a large war takes place, qital takes place, between 2 groups of Muslims who have the same call, da'wahuma wahid. They have the same call, and yet they're still having a major war. Now, this hadith is cryptic, but almost...
First thing I think of when I hear that is the Sunni Shia. But I'm sure I'm wrong.
Almost by unanimous consensus, our later scholars have understood this to be the Battle of Siffin and or the Battle of Jamal, or both. Why? Because it was the only point in time where in reality, theologically, methodologically, and religiously, both sides were on par with one another. In almost every battle after this, generally speaking, it is very different. But in that time frame, there were no theological differences between these two camps. They didn't differ about salah, zakah, hajj, aqidah. Ironically, and not ironically, it is authentically mentioned that during the battles of Siffin, at the night time, sometimes the 2 warrior camps would pray tahajjud under the same imam. Because there's no difference in aqidah. And once a person came to Ali radiallahu anh and said, is Muawiyah radiallahu anh a kafir? He said this to him. And he said, A'udhu billah. Muawiyah ran away from kufr. How can he be a kafir? So he said to Ali, then why are you fighting him? How can you be fighting him? So Ali radiallahu anhu said, I pray in my du'as that me and Muawiyah are like the ones whom Allah said in the Quran, وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِم مِّنْ غِلٍّ إِخْوَانًا عَلَى سُرُرٍ مُتَقَابِلِينَ. We have removed the animosity between them, and they are now brothers in Jannah facing one another. He said, this is my dua to Allah, that me and Muawiyah radiallahu anh are this ayah. Notice, they're fighting one another in the day, but at night they are making this dua to one another. And there are also stories mentioned about Muawiyah radiallahu anh as well, that he did not allow certain things as well that were of a crude nature. So the point being that the Prophet is saying, two massive groups will fight, and they have the same call. When did this happen? It happened during the time of the Sahaba. A number of other predictions are given as well. I know time is limited, so I'm going to go 2-3 more, and then inshallah we'll open the floor for some Q&A, and then inshallah continue next week. One other prediction that was truly very bizarre. And this prediction is one of those that increases our iman, that our Prophet ﷺ is speaking from Allah Azza wa Jal. Hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. When Ammar ibn Yasir was almost tortured to death, when his father Yasir, his mother Sumayyah were massacred, when Bilal was being dragged through the streets and his flesh being used with hot combs, some of the Sahaba came to the Prophet ﷺ and complained, Ya Rasulullah, for how long will this happen? And the Prophet ﷺ was sitting in the shade of the Kaaba after Salat al-Dhuhr, hot. And there's a little bit of shade after Dhuhr, he's sitting there. And he was lying, not lying, but with his back on the Kaaba. And they're around him. And they said, for how long, Ya Rasulullah? When they said this, he not stood up, but he came up. And he said, how quickly and hastily you guys lose hope. How hasty you are. How hasty you are. فَوَاللَّهِ, it's only a matter of time when a lady will come from Sana'a to Hadramaut with her flock of sheep, fearing none except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then the wolf attacking her sheep. Now this is a very bizarre and yet explicit hadith. How so? He is telling them that in their own lifetime, yushikanna means literally it's just going to happen. Yani washak in Arabic means it's just going to happen. It's not going to happen after decades and centuries, it's going to happen now. In your own lifetimes it's going to happen. That a lady, now in those days there is no central government. Ladies do not travel on their own. We all know the hadith prohibiting that from those time frames. Whether it's applicable now or not is a fiqh discussion. We'll come to it someday, inshallah. But definitely the hadith are there for that time frame, for their own safety. You don't have a lady traveling alone, especially between two cities. But the Prophet said, it's only a matter of time where a new government will arise that will give so much security and safety that the furthest nether regions of this land, and that's Sana'a and Hadramaut. So Sana'a and Hadramaut, imagine, we are in Dallas here, imagine if somebody said, between Vancouver and Seattle, far, far away. This is the analogy, right? Far, far away. We are in the center here. I'd like to say Dallas is the center, huh? This is our center now. We are in the center. Physically, metaphorically, intellectually, inshallah, maybe even politically, things are heading, Allah knows where, let's not go there. But anyway, our state has a unique law in this. Anyway, let's not go down that tangent. Okay, where am I? Center of the world? Hadramaut, we're in Hadramaut, yes, okay. He mentions two cities far, far away. Why? To signify how powerful that new government is going to be. That it shall bring peace and security to the nether regions, to a young lady. And young ladies, generally speaking, wolves prey on them amongst the men, prey amongst them the most. But there will be no cause of fear. And what will she be scared of? In her own personal life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then she's worried about wolves and foxes attacking her sheep. You're worried about physically being beaten to death because you're a Muslim, and I am telling you a time will come when there will be so much security that no one will fear the robber, the highway robber, the thief. And as we know, in the time of the Sahaba, this happened and it was manifested many, many times. This is a prediction that no one could have ever made when the Sahaba are being cut to pieces. And our Prophet ﷺ says, we shall be safe. Just be patient. One generation, not even one generation. And that is exactly what happened in their own lifetimes. The Sahaba saw the coming of this peace and this security. And with this, inshallah, we will pause for today and resume next Wednesday. And there's time for 2 or 3 questions. So I typically like to alternate between brothers and sisters. I don't know if the sisters are comfortable doing that. If not, you're free to write it, or you can raise your hand and speak. So the first from the brothers, Bismillah, yes, go ahead. Bismillah.
Between the time that Muslim fights and the time that there's hadith about the fitan. If there's time of the fitan, just stay away and don't get involved. So what's the difference between this time of fitan and...
The question is that, there's a slightly rephrase, there are some hadith that tell us to avoid the fitan when Muslims fight. And how do we understand this in light of the Sahaba fighting? Realize that when the Sahaba fought, there were actually 3 camps. There was the group of Ali radiallahu anh, there was the group of Muawiyah radiallahu anh, and then there was a small third category that refused to take part. And this was the elite of the elite, the crème de la crème, the likes of Abdullah ibn Abbas, the likes of Abdullah ibn Umar. They did not participate in either side. And somebody came to Ibn Abbas and said, are you in the camp of Ali or in the camp of Muawiyah radiallahu anh? He said, I am in the camp of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay, so he refused to take sides here. If you can give us 1 more minute, inshallah. Sisters, quick question. Any hands? Anything? Going once? Going twice? Any sister have any questions? Is that a question? I don't know. Is that the mic? Okay, go ahead. Bismillah. Yes. No question. Okay, back to the brothers. Bismillah. Yes, go ahead. No, the brother, go ahead. I know, the other brother. Go ahead. Go ahead, brother. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What is the difference in your mind between a prediction and a prophecy? It's a pedantic point, interesting point. So our brother is asking, should we use the word prophecy instead of prediction? Okay, I will use prophecy, no worries. No problem. I think it's a technical point. I don't see an issue either way. It is a prediction, but coming from a prophet, I agree, it becomes a prophecy. Agree, Bismillah. Sisters, anything? Nothing from the sisters. Okay, brothers, yes. That will be on Saturday. Be patient. Your question will be answered on Saturday. Okay? Inshallah, yes, go ahead, Bismillah. That's a very detailed question. The question is, what was the reason of the Battle of Siffin? And inshallah, maybe one day we'll give a brief summary, but it is the methodology of Ahl Sunnah to not go into details about this issue because there's no benefit. The heart becomes hard. The example that I give, it's an awkward example, but it's true. That look, if your parents have an argument, you're growing up as a teenager, your parents have an argument, now years go by. Do you go back and think about that argument and who said what, or do you think of the good times? You see my point? Why should we go back and think of, these were people that were on the same path, the same methodology, the same theology, and some negatives happened. Is it healthy to go back and just be obsessed about what he said, what's going to be the benefit? Now, true, small group of people doing PhD in early Islamic history, somebody should preserve and somebody should write. But for us as average Muslims, what do we gain by going back and regurgitating?
Sometimes you can learn the perspective as to why someone or a group of people thought a certain way. And in understanding that, can help shape further discussion. Also, you can really look back on it and become, as he says, hardened, your heart hardened, in your opinion that this side was right and that side's wrong. And then you can eventually come to believe that that side is always wrong. And that can be a difficult path, because now you're setting one side up to always be wrong, and you refuse to listen to their point and anything like that. But that could be for not just this, that could be for anything. Politics, law, this, that, you know.
He said this, he said that. What's going to happen? It was a time of fitan, and they both wanted peace and stability. This is for sure. That's why the Prophet said, "Da'wahuma wahid." They both wanted peace and stability, but the way they wanted to achieve it politically was different. Let's just put it like this. And that led to a clash that they could not resolve except going to war. And what happened, inshallah. With this, inshallah, there is one question. Sisters, I want to give you a chance because I want to make sure. One question, sisters. Yes. What's the what? But this is a fiqh question, sister. Let's keep, inshallah, this is the Q&A. We will have it, inshallah. I will add this question to our Tuesday session, inshallah, okay? For Wednesday sessions, let's keep it related, but inshallah, you're a very important question. We will, inshallah, answer it in one of the Tuesday sessions. Jazakumullahu khair. Inshallah, we'll continue next Tuesday.
We'll go ahead and end it here, because I don't think really we're going to be gaining anything over the next 41 seconds. I think we can skip the final 41 seconds. I don't think anything's really going to happen. He closed the book. Once you close the book, there's nothing more to discuss. That's what Dr. Yasir once told me. Him and I talk frequently. I tell him all the information he needs to know. So you can trust me on that. So we're going to go ahead and end it here. This was the final part. There is a part 2. Might get to it. There are other videos that I need to finish and get to before I can get to that. I still have to finish the Crusades from Dr. Roy from the Austin School. I got like half of it done. I'm going to actually get that done tonight after the game. But it won't be, yeah, whatever. So there's a thanks button. You can donate to the channel. You don't have to. You can donate and request videos. You can request videos without donating. Just the requests come first because you've donated. The non-donated requests just take longer to get to. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Otherwise people will get mad at you. Give a thumbs up. Everyone loves that. And if you want to give a thumbs down, I hope that you get into a terrible accident and you have a catheter for the rest of your life, and you got to pee that catheter into a bag. But it's like a big book bag. You got to keep it wrapped around your arm and just goes, and it's a clear plastic see-through bag, and everyone knows what you're walking around with. Maybe there's a tube in the old booty too. You got a booty tube, and you got to poop through that, and that also goes into the bag. How do you like that? Everyone's going to, like, they're going to be standing there just looking over at you going, oh, look at that bag. It's filling up with water. Oh, he's peeing. And then they're going to see, like, little things floating in it. They're going to be like, oh, that dude's pooping through the tube right now. I don't need to see that. And that's what's going to happen to you when you give a thumbs down. So don't do that. Until next time, have a good day, have a good night.